you heavens, let the praise go up as the walls come down. All creation, everything with breath, repeat the sound. All creation, with hearts, good grace, good God. His name is Jesus. Swing wide, all you heavens, let the praise go up as the walls come down. All creation, everything will breath, repeat the sound. All his children, clean hands, pure hearts, good grace, good God. His name is Jesus. Swing wide, all you heavens, let the praise go up as the walls come down. All creation, everything with breath, repeat the sound. All his children, clean hands, pure hearts, good grace, good God. His name is Jesus. Jesus, our redemption, our salvation is in his blood. Jesus, light of heaven, friend forever, his kingdom come.
Third one is carelessness. He says here, be careful that you do not forget the Lord your God. Have you ever noticed how easy it is to forget things by just starting to take them for granted? You know, I can remember times when we were in some area, perhaps camping, and it was just so dark. This would be really cool when we were in the mountains. And in the mountains, you have a greater elevation, and the stars were just so amazing. It was so dark. And I remember just going back like this so I could see as much expanse of the sky as I could all at once. But you know, there's so many nights those stars are out there, and I hardly even look, hardly even notice. It's because they begin to get commonplace. You know, the blessings of God can get to be commonplace so that we're not even thanking the Lord for them anymore. This happens in so many marriages. Partners begin to take one another for granted and are no longer thanking God for the blessing of their spouse. Take them for granted, forgetting the blessing of the Lord their God. And then they start grumbling because it's the same old, same old. No, it's not. It's the blessing from God. You know, if the stars only came out once a year, we'd all be out there looking at them, probably for the entire night, wouldn't we? We surely wouldn't take them for granted, but we grow accustomed to them. The Israelites had no food, so they grumbled, and God sent them the manna miraculously from heaven that would cover the ground every day except for the Sabbath, and they would go out and gather the manna. But then they began to grumble over the sameness of it. They forgot it was a miracle from God. And they became careless, forgetting the blessings of the Lord. They forgot to say thank you. I love this story about the famous author Rudyard Kipling. He was one of the few writers of his day who actually got to experience the fruits of his labor. I mean, he made a lot of money from his writings. One time, a newspaper reporter came up to him and said, you know, Mr. Kipling, I just read an article about you, and they said that with all the money you're making on your writing, you're making about $100 a word. Saying it rather sarcastically. And at that, the reporter took a $100 bill out of his wallet and held it up before Kipling and said, you know, I'd like to hear one of those $100 words right now, Mr. Kipling. And Kipling looked at the $100 bill and put it between thumb and finger and said, thanks. $100 word. He's right. But thanks can be $1 million word. It's said way too infrequently. If we'd adopt an attitude of thanksgiving in our lives would be changed, and we'd begin to savor every single day as a miraculous blessing from God. If any nation across the entire face of the earth ought to be thankful for the greatness and the goodness and the blessings of God, it's the United States of America. Don't you agree? Now, if any people inside those United States of America ought to be thankful for the goodness and the greatness and the blessings of God, it ought to be the Christians. Don't you agree? Absolutely.